There he is. Chael Sonnen. How are you, Chael?
Ta-da. Ta-da. Here I am, Ariel.
Here you are. We've talked to you very recently, but there's so much to talk to you about, Chael, so I had to get you back on. Here we are, Fight Week. You're about to head out to Los Angeles to fight Rampage Jackson. First things first, what do you make of the decision? Big John McCarthy, going to be a partner of yours, calling the action on Saturday. What do you make of this call?
Yeah, I love it, man. I had no idea either. I wasn't filled in the loop on that. So, yeah, that was great news. And my first concern was, is he done reffing? And I read that he's not, thank goodness. But, yeah, good for him. I mean, talk about a guy that's been everywhere, seen everything, has an opinion on it, man. I've always wanted to hear from John. That's one thing when you're dealing with referees is you don't have a whole lot of dialogue. You know, they're kind of a separate entity, and they need to be. But a guy like John that's seen everything, I mean, you just had him on your show, is one of the best speakers I've heard on the MMA Hour in a meaningful period of time.
Has he like off the top of your head? When's the last time?
That sounded like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah,
I meant it only as a compliment to John, but it really was really well spoken. And I let's get him in a booth.
But you know what's interesting? I wanted to specifically have you after him because usually when I come to you after a guest, like you're sleeping, you're snoring, you couldn't do that with him because he's a colleague of yours now. So you couldn't, even if you were bored, you couldn't do the gimmick where you were sleeping. You see what I did?
You did. You did get me on that one. Well done. Yes. You made me change. You made me dance.
Yeah.
So let's get into it, Helwani. You said you've got some questions for old Chael. Let's dig into a few.
Okay, I have to say, Chael, I was so fired up on Friday when I got the news that they bumped Lima and Rory down from main event to co-main, and people took that as me taking a shot at you at Rampage. I love you guys. I mean, it's going to be a great fight, and you're legends of the sport. But I just feel, and I know you're an old time guy. The belt has to go last. It has to go last, right? I mean, isn't that an important thing? What do you make of this switch? Can you be objective here to remove yourself from the situation? The belt has now been demoted.
Well, yeah, I would never. I think I'm always objective. I want to say so. I didn't get it. Listen, I mean, I fight whenever my music hits those speakers. That's when I leave that locker room. So I don't know that one had anything to do with the other, but I hear your point on that. And traditionally, a title fight does go last. Let's see what happens moving forward. Again, I haven't been filled in on this. I think, every fight, every quarterfinal, and every semifinal, and then the championship of the tournament for the coming calendar year will always be, the featured match or the last match of a card. I don't know that to be true, but I think that's what it has to do with. And I hear your point that that's a world title fight. This is a world title fight tournament. I don't disagree with you, but I think that was probably the thought going into the decision making.
Did you reach out to them and say, hey, why did you make this call 8 days out?
No, I found out from Mark Raimondi. He tweeted something out, and the reason it mattered to me, I was never told where I was on the card. I just always assumed I was co-main event for one reason, which is I saw the poster. It had Douglas and Lima in big photos on top and Rampage and I underneath them. So the reason it was relevant for me is because in California, if you're the main event, you get 4 cornermen as opposed to 3. So I had to have a talk with a cornerman and explain that, you're the odd man out on this one, and was able to call him back and go, hey, change of plans, you're back in. So that was really the only thing that changed in my life, but I had to get clarity on it because no one ever told me. I found out from Mark.
Wow. If you were, Douglas or Rory, would you be annoyed, or do you, like, at the end of the day, is this just people like me making a big deal out of nothing?
Yeah, I think it's probably people like you. I mean, just as a fighter, that's not something that ever factors in, whether you go first or last, or you walk out first or you walk out second. It's not something that ever factors in or you feel slighted about. So I don't think that anybody would care. I mean, the job's the same. And I don't even know what the reason was for why they did it. I saw your comments on it where you said if they'd done it 2 months ago, it would be fine. And, maybe that would have been more helpful if it was 2 months ago, in terms of the marketing and who got what dollars and who got pushed where. But I don't know what the reason is behind doing it. I don't think you get more viewers. It's the same guys fighting, doing the same thing, just 15 minutes apart. So I don't know. Maybe I could learn something through this.
Saturday is a fascinating night in the sport because you're going up against a UFC pay-per-view. I told New York Rick in the back before we went live that I think that Bellator being on quote-unquote free TV, cable TV will hurt the UFC pay-per-view more than the UFC pay-per-view will hurt the Bellator ratings. Do you agree with me on that? Because one is technically free if you have cable of any kind. The other one you have to pay $60 for, and it's not the deepest card of all time. It's really a top-heavy card. A, how do you feel about going head-to-head with the UFC pay-per-view? And B, do you agree that the Bellator show will hurt the UFC pay-per-view buy rate more so than the buy rate will hurt the ratings?
I would think that makes sense logically. I'm such a fan, man. Anytime this has happened, I've always had both. I've always, even if it's a boxing pay-per-view, the UFC had some card, I think it was an FS1, the night that Triple G fought Alvarez. I just went back and forth. So it's hard for me to relate because I take them all in. So, but I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I mean, well, look, we've got our share. We've got our share of the market. We've gone head-to-head with them before and done great, and they've gone head-to-head with us, and they've done great too. It hasn't really turned into this Coke or Pepsi, Ford Chevy situation where everybody thought that they were going to have to pick one. So yeah, I would agree with that. And what's the second question? I'm sure it was a good one.
Well, I get. I guess the question was, you sort of answered it. Do you like this? Like, as someone who's competing in one of the cards, it's kind of like the Monday Night Wars of the past, right? Sometimes a rising tide lifts all boats, or sometimes, it hurts one or the other.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I mean, I love competition as much as anybody, and the dates do just fall that way. I think in a perfect world that, they would jockey and not do that. But, both companies are doing so many shows. UFC doing 53 shows in 2018. Bellator's doing 23 shows in 2018. I mean, there's only so many dates. So we've gone head-to-head before. We've got our fans and our viewership, and some of them are crossover fans, and some of them are just loyal to us. But, we'll have our place in this market for sure.
How much do you expect to weigh come fight night?
Well, I would like to be 214, but that's not like a hard and fast. It could be 212, it could be 217, but somewhere right in that range, somewhere under 220. I think I moved my best, so I'm 220 right this second. But I'm drinking a lot of water and doing some stuff, so the scale kind of lies a little bit. But somewhere right in there, 214, 215. I think I move my best.
And how much do you expect Rampage to weigh come fight night?
Well, let's see. I saw him 2 weeks ago. Yeah. He was 260, but he said he was trying to get to 245.
Whoa.
And for King Mo, he weighed in at 253. So I would think he'd be somewhere right around there, somewhere between his goal and what he weighed for Mo. So, 253-ish, 251, somewhere right in there.
Do you like that for him, or do you think that's a little, like, is that your advantage, him being that big?
I haven't really thought about that much. I don't know. I don't know the difference in any of that stuff. People talk about, I don't know a damn thing about it. I don't know an easy fight from a hard fight. They're all the same. It's, I go out and go as hard as I can go until time is up. I'm exhausted every time. I feel like I get hit by a car every time. So I don't really know the difference. So whatever he weighs, it's not going to stop me from doing my output. I'm going to go out there and go as hard as I can, leave everything out there. And one guy will win. So I've never really bought into the size advantage. I know announcers and sports guys love to use the term size advantage. They use reach advantage as well, but it's never been true in history. We've never seen a bigger guy go out and have an advantage. We've never seen a guy with longer arms have an advantage. But no matter how many times the fans get proven that, they keep talking about it. That whole bigger guy thing, I'll give you a couple of examples, but Muhammad Ali in his prime was 198 pounds. Mike Tyson in his prime was 220. Mike Tyson never had one single fight where he wasn't smaller or where his arms weren't shorter. But commentators still like to talk about a size advantage and a reach advantage. It's just not true. It all came along because some guy's kid got his ass kicked one day, and when he had to explain it to his buddies the next day on the job site, Junior, he lost, but the kid was bigger. It's really hasn't ever proven to be true in fighting.
What, if anything, did you gather from Rampage when you were around him for that media day? Did you sense anything? What was your takeaway from him?
Well, he was a very nice guy, which caught me off guard. He was very pleasant to be around, and the reality is in these tournaments is they're not about animosity. They're just not. It's a straight line bracket. I had somebody ask me if you beat Rampage, are you going to call out Fedor? Well, it doesn't work that way. Whoever advances takes on the guy that advances on the other side. So I didn't really feel a need for it. And on top of everything else, Ariel, we weren't the main event. The pressure wasn't on us to sell tickets and bring in eyes. It was on Rory and Douglas at that time. So, we really had a fairly pleasant day. It was pretty matter of fact. We're going to fight. We're going to fight on this date at this weight class as hard as we can, and one guy's going to try to advance.
Does the mindset change now that you are the main event? Do you feel like in this last week you have to promote more?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, only in this regard. My ego was more attached to it. Before it was put on those guys. So,
right.
My ego is directly related to the number of people in that arena that night. And the first thing I do on Monday morning when I get up is I check the ratings. So, I think I do feel a little bit differently. I like it. I agree with your point. I wish I would have known and had a little bit more time. But let's do it, man. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight in the Forum. Don't forget this is a hot spot of all of MMA. You got Vegas and Dallas has done a good job. New Jersey's always been good, but you got California. They're very smart. They're very avid fans. They're from a disgusting city with very little else to do. So, where I come from, it just wouldn't be Saturday night if there wasn't a fist fight going on somewhere.
Do you feel like you need to exercise the demons in said Forum? Because we all remember what happened the last time you fought there, right? You fought Tito Ortiz. I know that was a very disappointing night for you. Do you feel any of that going back there?
I destroyed Tito Ortiz. Don't try to mislead the fans. And ask yourself one question, Ariel. Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? So, no, I don't know that I feel that way, but I'm going to go and compete hard. I expect to beat Rampage. I expect to compete very hard, and I expect it to be a really hard fight. One thing about Rampage, man, is he never quits. Every fighter quits. Every fighter has quit, and we hate it, and we're ashamed of it, but we've done it except for Rampage. No matter how tired he's been, no matter how hurt he's been, I've never seen that guy just flick it. He's got a fighter's heart. He's a big competitor, and he's a big guy. And it's a big challenge. There it is.
Do you already know when the next fight would be if you win? Have they given you the dates?
No, the only dates that have been announced are for the quarterfinals.
Right.
The semifinals have not, and I know that they would like to do the entire tournament within a calendar year, either possibly December of this year, possibly January of next year, but that is tentative.
Okay. Just want to ask you quickly about some teammates before I let you go. Paige VanZant fought last night. I believe it's the first time that she competes under sort of your team's umbrella. What did you make of her performance?
I thought it was great. I thought she won that fight, and nobody booed. Nobody seemed to agree with me, so maybe I have to rewatch it. I wasn't big, but I thought the judges might give it to her. I thought it was a very close fight, so maybe I missed it or watched it with some rose-colored glasses. But she fought really well. She pushed the pace. She comes forward. She got held down in a couple positions. I thought her opponent did a really good job too. But I was impressed. I was impressed with her pace. She broke her arm. She hit a spinning back fist and snapped her arm. I got a shot of the x-ray sent to me. It's a clean break. It was pretty nasty, and she pushed through. I think she should be very proud. New weight class.
Yeah.
And none of those are excuses. I'm just assessing her performance. I thought there was a lot more positives than there was negatives. Sometimes they don't go your way. It's a two-man sport. You can do everything right. In MMA, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. You can do everything right and still not get the result you want. I thought she did a lot of things really, really well, and her opponent did too.
By all accounts, Uriah Hall found himself in a very scary situation this past weekend. Not much info out there from the UFC. Is there anything you can tell us? I heard he fainted, he had a seizure, he was in the hospital overnight, he was released yesterday. This is scary stuff while weight cutting. What can you tell us about him, if anything?
Yeah, I've heard those same things. I believe them to be true. I didn't talk to Uriah. I reached out to him a couple times. I finally heard back today by text message. Things are looking up, and he's either going home or he just left, and he's either just about to leave or he just left. I'd have to go back and look at the text again, but he says he's feeling good, and I don't have the details. There was a lot of fighters that saw it. Somebody had even said it was in an elevator. With fellow fighters there, said it was a pretty scary situation. There was definitely no embellishment here about what happened. Guys miss weight, and then there's always some backstory. I guess he was on weight, and he was headed to the weigh-ins even, and collapsed.
Wow. Do you feel like anything needs to be changed as far as weight cutting? The early weigh-ins need to go back to the afternoon or change those same day? Is there anything that, any kind of take you have on weigh-ins or how to fix them, or is it just a matter of guys being better at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a discipline thing. I get a little bit of a cold heart when it comes to that, just because I've done it my whole life since I was 9 years old. So I'm a little bit calloused on that. I don't like that somebody could step in and tell a guy how much weight he can lose. You know, you're talking about a government agency telling a grown adult how much weight he can lose. That's beyond reach, in my opinion. Just purely politically speaking, that's way out of bounds. But it doesn't mean they're not going to do it. You know, the NCAA, in 1998, I was in the NCAA. We had 3 wrestlers die. Nobody had ever died from cutting weight in wrestling. 3 died in the same year. And they all had one thing in common, which is they were taking a supplement that was very popular back then called creatine. But either way, nobody could tie it to the creatine or the weight cutting. They just knew these guys were cutting weight and died. So the NCAA made very strict regulations at that time. They added 7 pounds to every weight class. They did not allow anybody to change weight classes. So in other words, everybody immediately got a 7-pound allowance. You then had to do what was called a hydration test. They tested your body fat, and then you had to pee into a cup to make sure you were hydrated when you did that, and they calculated how much weight you would be able to lose. And this was for the next season. For the immediate season, they just added 7 pounds. Then, and this is the real trick, this is where the NCAA, this is the best thing that they did. They made it an hour weigh-in, meaning right now we have what's called a 24-hour weigh-in, and then as you just alluded to, now we're even doing the morning, which turns into about a 32-hour weigh-in, meaning you weigh in and you're not competing for another 32 hours. The NCAA made it 1 hour. So you weighed in and 1 hour later you're on the mat competing. Well, nobody can compete dehydrated. You just can't do it. So that is what stopped weight cutting. It wasn't the pee test. It wasn't the fat body composition test. It was the 1 hour weigh-in. I offer that to you because that's the one thing that's ever been done to stop weight cutting that actually stopped weight cutting. And everybody just had to fight at the weight that or wrestle at the weight that they weighed. And it was a level playing field. You know, so many people, the psychology is really simple, Ariel. People would go, well, let's just add 10 pounds to every weight. Well, then guys just cut to a lower weight. It doesn't change anything. 1 hour weigh-in, the NCAA has proven it since 1998. That ended weight cutting. But I'm only offering that to you as a historical fact of what ended weight cutting for the sport of wrestling. And there's only 2 sports where you have to weigh in the amateur, boxing and wrestling. So it's a great example I just offered you. But I'm not saying that I think that somebody should go to that. I mean, these are grown men. Telling them what they can weigh. For me, that's overreach. But if you are looking to do something, there is a historical precedent set by the NCAA in 1998, and that would be it.
Wow. Okay. One last thing before I let you go, Chael. Some horrible news.
You should say, wow, that was brilliant what I just
That was
told
great
you.
stuff.
That really was brilliant. Your fans can't get that insight anywhere. So there you go. And the NCAA is very respected. Aside from being the scum of the earth, they are a body that has been out there for a long time, and they are respected.
Respected might be a stretch, but that was great insight. I mean, it's high time, in my opinion, that the athletes get paid, but that's a different argument for a different day. I don't want to keep you too long. When do you go out, by the way? Do you go out tomorrow?
I go today. I actually talked to you. My mother, I can see her through my office window right here. She's waiting, and we're going to head to the airport right now. So, wow. No, I go today. I don't do anything today. It's just a travel day, and it's real easy for me. It's in LA. I'm in Portland, so I got about a 2-hour flight. And that's it. It's starting to get in fight mode. You want to know what's been tough for me, Ariel? Is getting into fight mode because not having this weight cut. You know, having that weight cut and that discipline and that hunger and that anger from all of that. That's what lets me know I'm going into a fight as opposed to going into practice. So I don't have that this time. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I won't know until after the match. But it is something that I've missed, and I have to keep reminding myself, I got to fight this weekend. I got to fight this week. I got to start feeling nervous. I got to start feeling scared. I got to start feeling excited. Whatever it is, without having this forced discipline of the weight cut, I don't know. I keep forgetting it's happening.
That's amazing. Yeah, because you're almost like torturing yourself. I remember talking to you at 117 before the Anderson fight and like the pain you were in. Of course, you were sick that particular day on media day, but there's sort of like a torture process that you go through on the way to the weigh-ins, and then of course the fight before the fight, if you will. So that is interesting insight going into this big fight. But I want to ask you just quickly before you go, and I know you have to run, and please say hello to your mom. She is such a lovely lady. But last month we had some horrible news about the passing of Robert Follis, and you knew him way back when. You started out with him. Do you have a great Robert Follis story that you can share with us? Anything that comes to mind when you I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't prepare you for this, but is there anything that comes to mind?
I think that's very sweet of you to do that. Thank you. And I hope you continue to talk about him. He's a really great guy. I have a number of Robert Follis stories, and okay, Ariel, he was such a optimist at all time. He really believed in the laws of attraction. He used to go to Anthony Robbins seminars. I mean, he paid $10,000 to just sit in the crowd for 3 days and hear Anthony Robbins speak, but he loved it. He loved that positive talk. It just infused him with energy that he'd bring back to the gym. He'd tell us all the stuff he learned. I mean, he was just this really positive guy at all times. And I was commentating for the World Series of Fighting, and Justin Gaethje was going to fight. I'm in my hotel room, and it's an all-white bathroom. And I have a Q-tip. I just showered. I have a Q-tip, and I hear it snap.
Oh, no.
And so I look at the Q-tip, and it's broken off. So I reach in my ear. I can't feel it. So now I'm looking on the bathroom floor. And the relevance to the floor being white is I thought maybe my eyes were playing a trick on me, and I just couldn't see it. It was white on white. So I'm down on my hands and knees. I'm going, hey, I got to find this thing, because if I can't find it, it means it's in my ear. And I'm about to go get an earpiece stuck in. I'm going to shove this thing into my brain. I mean, this is how I think this is going to work. So I'm on my hands and knees. I can't find it. I'm so panicked, and I can't feel it either. I'm so panicked. I call my wife on FaceTime, and she helps me. She helps me look. So I get to the arena, and there's Robert. And even though, he went to Vegas years before, but when a guy's your coach, he's your coach forever. So I go up to him, I said, Coach, here's what happened. He tells me that I need to think positive about this, and that he loses stuff all the time. And he told me some story about his keys, how I couldn't find my keys. I knew they were on my bed. I searched. I took all the bedding off. I put it all back together. The keys weren't there. An hour later, I walk in. I found my keys. I have no idea what that has to do with the fact that I might have a Q-tip in my ear, which is what I told him. But he insisted to me that I just think positive about it. Normally that would have worked, but it's like, no, Coach, I have to, one way or the other. It's either in there or it's not. I had to go get the fight doctor, who had to look in my ear, open it up, go into these really long Q-tips or, forceps type things and pull it out. I don't totally know where I'm going with that story, other than it was just Robert being positive. And it's like, Coach, positive doesn't always work, man. I got to get this thing out of my ear. And it's just a fun story.
Wow. So it actually was in your ear.
It was in my ear the whole time. That's why I'm saying I can't just think. I have to know. I have to know one way or the other. This isn't like keys on a bed that just mysteriously, fight. I have to know if this thing's in my ear.
Chael,
and it was.
I love you, buddy, but you can't be cleaning your ears that aggressively. The fact that you broke it and it stayed in your ear, you're doing this all wrong. You know this, right?
Apparently, and I wasn't even cleaning it. It's the scratch that feels good. Scratching my ear. Yeah, it broke off.
Wow. Well, that is great.
What do we do from here? Who else do you have on the show, Ariel? You got anything to kind of pick things up around here?
Yeah. We've got your former colleague, Daniel Cormier, coming in studio. So that's very exciting. He's off to Boston, but he's stopping by.
Huh?
Yeah. We've got Chris Cyborg. The great Chris Cyborg is stopping by, the featherweight champion of the UFC. Of course, your boss, Scott
Tell her
Coker.
I said hello.
Yeah, I know she's a big fan.
Coker hasn't been on yet?
Not yet.
Oh, I thought he was already here. All right, well, good. I warmed everybody up for him.
Yoel Romero stopping by as well. Big middleweight fight coming up next month against Luke Rockhold. So all kinds of action still to come. We go 6 hours here. People take this day off, but we're honoring, the great Dr. Martin Luther King by giving a service to the people here. That's what we do. We don't take days off here.
Wonderful. I'm not sure the spin that you just put on that. You've got the right to go to work. I don't know. You had to qualify it, but all right. Good enough, Ariel.
Well, because no one's here. Everyone's away. Last, Mazel Tov to you and your lovely wife. You had a child recently, right? A baby girl. So I'm so happy for you guys.
Did, little Priya.
Little Priya. That's amazing.
Thank you, buddy.
How old?
I appreciate that. 5 weeks right now.
Wow.
Sleeps all day and parties all night. If I could just switch her schedule around, everything would be a little easier at the old Chael household. But we'll do it her way.
That's amazing. And Big Brother being nice to her, not jealous or anything like that?
Well, yeah, he's being very nice. But I think that it's because we always tell him, oh, good boy. That's I think he likes that praise a little bit. So, but he'll come around. He's only 2.5, and plus he has a trial coming up. So,
what do you mean?
He's got to focus a little bit. Well, I'm getting him ready for his pending trial. So he's 2.5. I would guess it probably got about 15 years before he's got to take the stand.
Okay. What are you talking about?
Life in the streets. That's what I'm talking about, Ariel. You wouldn't know anything about it up in your little penthouse with your view. Things are tough out here in Westland.
Chael, I wish you the best. The new headliner for Bellator 192 this Saturday against Rampage Jackson. Two of my favorites. I'm a little sad that I won't be there, Chael. I have to admit, I feel guilty about it. But alas, I can't clone myself. Would have loved to be there, but I can't be there.
Where are you going to be? You going to be at the WMG Alphabet?
Yeah, it's closer to New York, less of a flight. That's really what it comes down to. It's weak, I know.
Do your thing, Helwani. We're on TV, something called the Paramount Network. Maybe you've heard of it. Formerly known as Spike TV, which I wish they would tell people. They're so big in branding this Paramount Network, and I get the whole thing, but just remind people it's the same channel that Spike used to be on.
I know.
Don't leave that out. People still know where to go to MMA.
Thank you,
Ariel, I got to tell you. Can I tell you something?
Please.
Those were very nice of you to give nice wishes to my coach. A little shout out to Dr. King there and to bring up my baby. I do appreciate that. I will tell you, I'm a little down. I feel great. I think it's just maybe the stress of having to fly. This was possibly my worst appearance on your show and still the best guest you're going to have today. With that, Helwani, kaboom.
There he is, the one and only Chael P. Oh, my God. You got to love it.